Welcome to Speak Out, Stand Out by Green Communications, where we're learning how to help our kids become better communicators. We believe our voices are the strongest asset we have, and our mission is to empower the next generation to use their voices to make a difference in the world around them. Whether you are a parent, an educator, or are just invested in today's youth, we hope this podcast will help you build confidence in our future, one voice at a time. Welcome back to Speak Out, Stand Out. I'm Elizabeth Green, founder of Green Communication. And today our amazing guest is Lena McCain, founder of Interfaith Bridge Counseling. And today we are talking about, as always, how to build confidence in our communication skills with us personally as adults, but really building it in our children. So Lena, we are so glad to have you today. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here.
So Lena, tell us a little bit about Interfaith Bridge Counseling. How did this come about? What is it? What do you do?
Yeah, so Interfaith Bridge Counseling was really kind of an idea that came to me right as I was in grad school about 5 years ago. And one of the things that I was really aware of is that I love working with teens and young adults, young people, because their minds are just so willing to soak up and change and evolve. And the challenge is they don't have access to mental health. So Interfaith Bridge Counseling came forward because we wanted to offer low-cost, affordable, easily accessible therapy for tweens, teens, and 20-somethings. And so we brought it into fruition, and now we do individual counseling, teen groups, workshops, and all of that good stuff all around the world.
That's amazing. And so you said it's been about 5 years now that you've been running this? That's fantastic. And so, one of the things that obviously, you're a therapist. I am not. But as a mom and seeing in my own children, I think that being a teenager is always hard. It always has been hard. It comes up with challenges. And today, especially, it comes with unique challenges that I know I didn't have whenever I was growing up. And a lot of these challenges I think our kids face really take a toll on their confidence. And I think we have to work harder and maybe, I don't know if this is your experience or not, but it seems like we have to work harder to build our kids' confidence now than ever because of the challenges they face with social media and, bullying and things like that to an extended level. So that's what we want to talk about today, right? How can we use some of the practices that you use in your group settings and with the kids that you work with? How can we implement those at home to help our kids? So let's dive in and tell me, is that one of the things that you see that a lot of teens do struggle with? Is it confidence or is that just me imagining?
No, you're totally spot on, because if we break down what is confidence is the firm trust in something. So having firm trust in yourself to do things, to be who you want to be part of the community you want to be a part of. And we don't know how to do that. How do we go with teenagers and say, yeah, have a lot of trust in yourself. Just go out there and do it. They're like, why would I have trust? I get to see all these people doing things I only wish I could do or that I dream of. I get comments and feedback if I make even just the littlest mistake. School in and of itself is this big system that's like, if I make one mistake, someone catches it and I get a bad grade or I get punished. I have to go to detention. I'm suspended. I'm always having to worry, right? So that confidence, that ability to have firm trust in ourselves is really minimal. And it takes a lot, not only to, one, be able to talk about it, but two, undo all the things that affirm we shouldn't trust ourselves.
And I think that you said so much there. And even as adults, right? That's a very difficult thing to do. But one of the first things you said was having trust in yourself and your hopes and your dreams and what you want to do. How do we begin to build that in our kids whenever they're still figuring out who they are?
Yeah. How do we build that in our kids whenever they're still trying to figure out who they are or when they're still trying to figure out? I think part of it is really making sure that we are uplifting, that it's not that we have to make a choice and we have to stick with it 100%. We might need to make a choice and follow it through that choice, but it doesn't mean that follow through is forever. And one of the ways we can really do that is by highlighting as adults when we change our mind and elaborate why we change our mind, like literally narrate all the things you do, right? I'm going to change my mind on why, I've changed how the rules work in our house, why all of a sudden I want us to move, why all of a sudden we're doing laundry a different way. Narrating that we change our mind instead of like quantifying it as this mistake or something hidden helps them see like, oh, other people and people I care about and I look up to, I value the opinion of, change their mind all the time. And it's not the worst thing. It's not a bad thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love it too, because oftentimes it's easier just to say, because I said so. When there's questions of why are we doing this different or why is this changing? Sometimes it's just easier to say, because I said so. And I struggle with that as a mom. And sometimes I feel like I over explain myself. And I know that that's a totally different train of thought and probably a different conversation. But like, at what point do we explain our actions to our kids? And what point do we just say, because I said so? But if we're just saying, because I said so, and not explaining anything, there's no learning opportunity there.
Yeah. Well, and also like sometimes we don't in the moment, right, have the time to narrate or explain or justify our actions, right? But we're always allowed to come back. And that in and of itself is modeling, going, okay, because I said so. We're leaving now because I said so. And then later that night, checking in and being like, hey, I know I was really short because I needed us to get from point A to point B in a time crunch. But I was thinking about how that might have really impacted you and caused you a lot of anxiety and maybe not trust that I had your best intentions at heart. And so I just want you to know that the reason I did that was because my goal was to get us there on time.
That speaks to me right there because I know that the trying to get our kids to understand that we have reasons for the things that we do, and they're not always going to like what we say, and especially when they're teenagers, right? A lot of times they're not going to like what we say, but there is a reason there, and it's not just to be a mean mom or something. So. So I love the way you said that. And like, we need to, remember that they're human beings too. And they need to know the inner workings of things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because how different would it be for you if someone who your own age didn't just like cut you off and not tell you answers or didn't just like manage you around, right? We have those experiences all the time. I don't know about you, but I kind of have an authority complex. If someone tells me like, I need to do this right now with urgency and I don't get to talk about it, I'm like, who are you? Like, who do you think you are that you can talk to me like that? But chances are that's also how they were raised. And so what would that do for down the line and how they interact with you, how they interact with other people in the world and how they present themselves so that they feel really good about not just communication, but communication that aligns with their values. And you mirrored that. You helped teach them how to do that.
That makes a lot of sense. And, that is our mission at Green Communications, is to help kids now find their voice, find confidence in their voice so that they can in the future. I mean, now, of course, but especially in the future when they're running this world, make it a better place. So it starts now. We can't expect them to do things in the future if we're not modeling it now for them. So that makes a lot of sense. So what are some practices or some tangible strategies that we can implement at home that you're doing with groups on a regular basis to help build that sense of self-trust?
Sure. So I think it's really important to take a step back because diving into what our self-trust is also means that we have an understanding of our values and our self-worth and how those two things communicate. And so when I'm working one-on-one with teams or I'm in a group of teams for group therapy, things like that, it's really important that I'm aware of what their values are and how their values are different from mine, because we all have values and some of them are similar, some of them are different, but none of them are wrong. So if I don't know your values or they don't know my values, we actually can't have transparent, direct, respectful conversation or relationship building. And our values can change when we're teams because the more we're in community, the more we're exposed to other values. So I want to highlight that because our self-worth goes back to that self-efficacy piece around, do I believe that I am worthy of succeeding? That's what self-efficacy is. Tie that with confidence, right? I trust myself to be worthy of succeeding. Boom. Okay. Once we can kind of understand the values around that, then we can apply strategies like, where are you today? Like, what's your priority list today? How do you want to show up in the world today? Is it that you're really focused on, I want to make friends because I feel lonely or I need alone time, right? And as adults, we have to be willing to kind of lead those conversations. So when I think of like strategies when I'm with teams, I'm always like, where are you? What's going on? What are your highs and what are your lows this week? And is it important to focus on highs or is it important to focus on lows? And then when we're actually like get past those pieces, it's really about kind of as adults focusing in on the general themes because teens don't know how to connect things. And that's just like a developmental thing, right? Like they are so at the front of their brains because it's not developed yet that they're like, this happened and there's no connection. And we're like, that's true. And like what we can do as adults is really go listen. Active listening is the first strategy. And then the second part is to go, well, can I reflect to you the thread that I'm seeing or the theme that I'm seeing? And then we can make an action plan together.
I love it. And so I want to ask a couple of things about that, but back to, I think you said a powerful phrase there, active listening. What is that? What does that look like in our lives with our kids?
Yeah. Active listening is so hard. Even as a therapist, it's hard. Active listening means I'm listening for the other person's benefit and not my own. Mm-hmm. So that means nothing like when I have those thoughts come in and I'm like, oh, I have to do the laundry and I have to start dinner and I've got to make sure they're doing their homework. I go, wait a minute. What they're saying to me is the most important thing in the world, even if it's trivial. And I can show that I'm active listening by reflecting what they say or noting the feeling that I'm feeling as I hear them. So if a teen is sharing with me, something really trivial, like I was running late for school and then I just had a bad day and I didn't want to eat anything and now I'm just exhausted. Be like, wow, it sounds like it was a really stressful day and it might have made you anxious and feel like things weren't going the way you planned. Yeah, that's true. That is true. That would suck. I wouldn't want that to happen to me. Yeah, I wouldn't either. Boom, now we're done. You just showed that you active listen. And then they'll probably be a little bit more vulnerable to share with you. And then that is the process, right? That active listening gives that process for you to now have more trust and more confidence because someone listened.
Right. Wow. And who doesn't want to be listened to?
Yeah. That's fine, right? I want to be listened to.
Right. And I feel like, I know that in my house too, I'm like, I'm not going to continue to talk to you if you're looking at your phone, right? Because I don't feel like you're listening. So I expect that respect from my family. Why shouldn't my kids expect that same respect from me? And I think that's something I know I struggle with. I work from home and I have since my kids were babies. And they'll call me out sometimes if they're talking about Minecraft or something. And I'm like, they know I'm not listening. And I've seen things and it's like, if you don't listen when they're talking about the little things, they won't talk to you about the big things. And that's hard. That's a hard truth to hear, but it is so true.
Yeah. And it's a hard truth to hear because we don't want that to be the reason, right? Because we love our children unconditionally. We do. Our whole goal is to get them through childhood and adolescence into being adults. And we want them to be happy and we want them to be well adjusted and we want them to be loved for everything that we see in them. But they don't know that without us. They can't know that. We can't just be in a bubble by ourselves and expect to see all the good things because that's not how the mind works. That's not how the mind tries to motivate us. And so when we can slow down and offer them the same respect that we expect to be given, we are now giving them a mirror to look at and go, oh, someone else is saying I deserve it. So yeah, I do deserve it. You just reaffirmed that for me. So now when someone is being disrespectful to me, I will know that someone believes I deserve to be respected. so I can stand up for myself because I had that person behind me always.
Yeah. And that it's a lot. And that, we want our kids to think that to know that we always have their backs. But, how do they know that? Just by saying, I always have your back? No, not whenever like they get in trouble at school and then they're grounded at home. They certainly don't feel like we have their backs then. So I think this is a simple way. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it's simple, right? It's just showing respect to our kids by listening to what they have to say, even if we have a million other things going on at the moment.
Absolutely. Well, another word or like phrase I use sometimes instead of respect, because, different cultures have different feelings about respect, and especially respect to children. It's like mutual consideration. Just consider, would you want to be treated that way? And if the answer is no, we don't lead that way. We don't model that way. We have enough mutual consideration to say, oh, sorry. Here's what I want you to take away from this instead.
Right. I love it. Mutual consideration. I just made a note of that. That is the perfect way to put it. The perfect way to put it. Well, and another thing you said a few minutes ago was you were talking about getting the highs and the lows from them. I know, again, just in the busyness of a day, oftentimes on the way home from school, I'll say, in order to get my kids to talk, because it's, how was your day? Boring, the usual. And I'll say, tell me one good thing about your day. I never ask them, tell me one thing that didn't go well. And that is, that's probably a conversation that's worthy of having, right?
Yeah, because there's no way that we're ever 100% anything. And positive things are important. They really are. But if we can't have conversations about the little things or the low things or the annoying things, the subtle message that gets shared is, you only listen to me if I have something proud or something I've accomplished for you to listen to. That kind of sucks.
Yeah.
Because they're not always productive. They're not always accomplishing, because we're not always productive. We're not always accomplishing. They are humans. And sometimes what they have to share is, I'm really upset because I wasn't doing something worth sharing with you today.
Wow. And we gosh, that hurts. That hurts. That hurts because of course we don't want our children to feel like that. And we're unintentionally causing that feeling, right? And without knowing it. So,
yeah. And it's not always about our intention, right? I think that's a really important piece. It's unintentional, but impact is always at play. Intention isn't always at play, but impact is. And teens are they're so smart. That's why I love working with them. They just have this like quickness, and that quickness is a blessing and a curse, because if we're not super intentional, our impacts can have this really intense consequence that we didn't intend for it to have, because it was just something as simple as, I didn't think that I needed to cultivate an environment for you to share something low to me that I just assumed you would come to me.
Right.
Well, why did I make that assumption?
Right. Wow. What, and you talked too about, like, in your group, you're able to get teens to open up to you, which that alone is a superpower, right? So what do you say to the parent who has that teen that is closing off and it wants to be in their room more than with the family, and just, going through the things that a lot of teens go through as they age? What do you say to the parent? How do we support them without being overbearing or pushing them too much?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I do have a beautiful privilege of getting teens to talk. And I should note that like the average teen person stays in my group for about 3.5 years. So I really get to know them for a very long time, and get to watch them kind of go through these phases and their relationships with their parents. And the thing that it always comes back to is the parent doing it because they are anxious or worried about them, or are they anxious or worried about themselves as the parent and all the isms that are going to come with that and all the judgments? Am I worried that I'm making a mistake, that I'm being a bad parent, that if someone finds out, that this is how my family goes, that they'll have something nasty to say. And it's usually the case when we're talking about a teen that wants to be alone in their room and needs some space, right? If someone were to come in, they'd be like, well, I wouldn't let them be in their room. What do you think they're doing? They need to be out here with the people that love them. Well, when we come from that, and that's what we're worried about as parents or the adults in these teens' lives, they know that. Their whole nervous system and their mind knows that that's why we're checking in. And so what I always encourage parents to do is to stop and check in with themselves and ask, how are they feeling about their teen wanting to be separate from them? Are you feeling okay? Are you feeling confident in the teen that you raised, that they will come and tell you if they need you? Or are you feeling confident that they know what they need? And if the answer to these things are like, no, then one, you need to go get some support for yourself because that's really hard. But two, right, the next part of that is like being able to be a little bit vulnerable with your teen about that. Hey, I just want to check in and let you know that I get really worried when you're in here by yourself because I miss you being out here with the family. And I'm sure I don't understand why you're in here, but I hope we can get to a point where you'll tell me why you want to be in here more than you want to be out here with us. Because I miss you and it makes me sad. It makes me a little scared. Parents never are like with their kids.
No, not at all. My husband gets on to me because he says I over communicate, and in that situation, the way you said that was so clear, so concise, so caring, and I would have just gone on and on and on, and then they're going to tune you out anyways, right? So
it's this good script. It's a book. It's like a 30, 40-page book. So I encourage anyone to get it because it's actually really good and it gives you the fill in the blank. But it's called Honest, Direct, Respectful. And I teach this to all my teenagers so that they can learn. I mean, we do it in groups. We do it in individuals. They learn to say it to me because I say it to them. And I always want them to practice it with their parents and with their family and with their teachers. And the script is this: when you blank, I feel blank, and I wish, wonder, want, or hope blank. And then you have to shut up. No more. And so if we're talking about, like, if we use the example of a teen shutting themselves in their bedroom, okay? When you shut yourself in your bedroom away from us, I feel sad, scared, and confused. And I wonder if you realize how important you are to me in this family. Don't say another word. Let them respond. Let them not.
wow.
And it's just honest. It's direct. It's respectful. And it said what you needed to say. And they can get it.
Absolutely. And I, you know, even my background's broadcast journalism. And one of the things that we were taught in school was to shut up, right? Because if you keep talking, then the person you're interviewing doesn't have a chance to speak, but also people are very uncomfortable with silence. They feel the need to fill that void. So if you can make yourself stop talking, and I'm saying this directly to me, if I can make myself stop talking, then it opens up the space for them to open up.
Yeah. And you're also bringing up this really, I think, important point as well, especially when we're talking about children and we're talking about teens and just young people in general. As adults, there will always be a power dynamic. We are in the power seat. So when we talk too much and we don't actually let there be space for the one who's in less power to take up space, we're using our power to tell them that their voice doesn't. So then how is that going to work when they're not in a safe environment of home where they're loved unconditionally, but they're at school or they're competing, right? Or they're in college or they're at work? They will have already had enough experience with someone who loved them being in the power seat, not being willing to make enough space for them to speak up. So why would they think that they could with people who don't love them unconditional?
That is, honestly, you've dropped so many amazing nuggets. And I mean, the name of this podcast is Speak Out, Stand Out, right? And so, I mean, it just goes to show that all of this really, really does start at home and giving our kids opportunities and prompting them, but then waiting for their response. So that is really fantastic. Are there any other, I mean, like I said, I've been taking notes. I've got lots of great things already that you said that I am going to be implementing in my life starting today. But any other tips that you can think of for, I'm sure you have a million, but like just those actionable things that we can do today? What's something we could do with our kids tonight that maybe we don't think about doing that is little by little going to help build that self-esteem, self-confidence?
Yeah, my favorite check-in to do is either at dinner, on the way home, right before bed, is what's one mistake we made today and that we're going to be proud of? What's one mistake? Because what we tell ourselves and what our teens and our kids learn is it's not okay to make a mistake, because if I make a mistake, I'm a bad person. So if we make our check-in, what's one mistake that you made today that you're proud of yourself for making? Because mistakes are important. Boom. We are teaching them very foundation of, in order to be successful and in order to be confident, in order to think that we are worth it, we can fail. And we'll just learn. We'll learn something new about it. Doesn't have to be earth shattering. Doesn't have to be a mountain moving. It's just, maybe my mistake was like today, for instance, I made the mistake of washing my face with lotion instead of my cleanser. I did my whole face, my hair, and I was like, why is my face so muggy? Because I used lotion. I need to start it over again. And like, I checked in my household about that. And I was like, I shouted out, what's one mistake everyone's made so far today before noon? And I shared it and everyone was laughing and they were like, wow, that really inconvenienced you. You had to start all over. Yeah, I had to start all over. But you know what? What that reminded me was that I have the opportunity to just, one, start over whenever I want. But two, I need to slow down. I couldn't even read the label on my bottle. And I love that check-in because it also teaches teens and kids to start reflecting on like, yeah, what mistakes did I make? And I should share because someone's going to learn in my family from that too.
So when you're saying, so originally when you said, what's a mistake that you've made that you're proud of? I was envisioning and I was struggling to think, what is a mistake I've made today that I'm proud of? Thinking like that it had to have a positive turn because I made the mistake. That's not what you mean. It means we're proud of admitting that we can make mistakes, right? Because we all do on the regular, but also reflecting, like you just said about you needed to slow down and focus more on what you were doing. So looking for maybe why we made the mistake, is that part of the process too?
Absolutely. Looking for why we made the mistake. And you're right. It isn't about something that has a positive twist on it. It's recognizing like, what did that mistake serve? How did it serve us? And I use the word proud. We want to use the word proud because now they're starting to associate that even things that are low or quote unquote negative or quote unquote bad still serve us because that's being human. And when we can teach them that, we've just taught them that confidence is about being okay with who you are and what you do.
That's amazing. I love it. And thinking about our kids get boosts of confidence whenever they win a game, they win an award, they get straight A's or something like that, right? And obviously that's natural and that's great that they should gain confidence from those things, but not only those things, because there will be a time when they're not in school anymore. They're not making straight A's or they're not on the basketball team anymore. They're not the star quarterback. So they're not assigning confidence to just those high things, the high moments in your life, or congratulations, I guess is what I should say. You know, how that ties in with confidence or feeling proud of themselves because we're proud of them in those moments.
Yeah. In our group, so after we do our check-in, we always do like your names, pronouns if you're comfortable, highs and lows of your week. And then I do like some feeling check-in. This week, they're really into slugs. So I made like a feeling slug check-in. Once we get through like this debrief part, the next part is, we call it brain dump. Brain dump. What's one thing you're proud of yourself for this week? And, you know, the first time a member comes in, they're kind of grandiose and they use something like, oh, I won a soccer game. Or, yeah, I passed this test with an A. But when you have like original members, long-term members, what you'll see them do is like, I gave myself permission to get a C in my English class this semester because I was really struggling with my depression or my intrusive thoughts. But I'm really proud of myself that I gave myself permission for that instead of falling off of my hygiene or self-harming or whatever it is, right? Same thing can be applied at home on a really big scale, just by a little check-in on it.
I love it. I love it. This was all extremely, extremely helpful. Like I said, I can see why kids open up to you. I can see anybody opening up to you. You're so easy to talk to and you're full of amazing knowledge here. And Lena, you run multiple different groups for teens. It doesn't matter where you live. If you have is it just teens or do you do tweens too? Or what age range do you primarily work with?
So my group is primarily high school teens. They usually are the ones that throw events in a virtual setting. It does matter where you are. It just depends on your state. So if you reach out to me, I will do the job to find out if your state will let you join a group or not. But we would love to have more. The teens love to make friends wherever they go. And they're allowed to share contact info and stuff. So they are friends till the end. Kind of wild to see the type of relationships they develop.
That's amazing, especially in a place where they feel safe and can be them true selves and be vulnerable with each other. That's so much more than surface relationships that, that a lot of us are exposed to on the regular. So
absolutely.
That's great. Well, Lena, we very much appreciate your time today. We will link to Interfaith Bridge Counseling in the show notes, so be sure to check that out. And again, we very much appreciate your thoughts. If you have questions too for Lena, post and we'll make sure we stay in contact. And because like I said, I took tons of notes and I'm sure that everybody listening, if you have kids, you're around kids, you teach kids, anything, you have nieces, nephews, anything, you could probably gain some great knowledge from this one. So thank you, Lena. Again, appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
If you are looking for more ways to build communication skills in your kids, grab our free mini lesson on how to craft a polished and professional speech out of thin air, along with 52 fun prompts so your kids can practice every single week. You can find that along with info about our upcoming public speaking and debate courses for kids at greencommunicationsedu.com.